Today we play golf.
Let me show you how we do it in the pros.
Welcome to Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
I never miss with the 7-iron.
A conversation with some of the most interesting innovators and entrepreneurs behind the biggest names in golf.
My friends with the golf clubs. I lived on the golf course. I lived on the driving range.
From pro talk
You should learn something from each and every single round you play.
to fun from on and off the green.
Why would you play golf if you don't play it for money?
Just let me put the ball in the hole.
This is Behind the Golf Brand Podcast with Paul Liberatore.
What's up, guys? Paul from Golfers Authority. Welcome to the Behind the Golf Brand Podcast. This week, I have my friend Ryan Duffey from Meridian Putters. I'm really excited to have him on the show. They're making some sick putters. The detail work is nuts. And so for all you gearheads out there that love, like, not like boring detail, like a line on top, but like face detail, it's freaking crazy what he's doing. So when I saw that, I was like, I gotta have him on the show. And I'm really excited to have him here. So welcome to the show.
Paul, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. This should be a fun time.
Okay, so where do you live?
I am just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in a little town called Brookfield.
Which way is that? From the
Just
north?
on the west side of the town. If you go east, you're in
By the
Lake
water?
Michigan. So yeah, so we're about 15 minutes outside of downtown Milwaukee on the west
Oh,
side.
you're right there.
Yeah,
How far of a drive is it to Chicago?
hour and a half. The big city.
Yeah, it's a big ass city, dude. Because you go to all the suburbs and crap like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm from Chicago, and
Okay.
I know my family's from Chicago, but we're like the black sheep, and then we moved out here when I was like, I was born out here actually, but like, so all my family lived in Chicago, like South Side though, like southwest suburbs and South Chicago and stuff. I like Milwaukee because I go there a lot with my friends and my fraternity brothers, and it's a fun town.
It's a great spot during the summer. As you are familiar with, the winter can get a little long, and if you're
But you have I love the fall there, like the fall, the Midwest, like upper Midwest is beautiful. Like, come October, like Halloween, it's just awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Now come January, it blows, but
exactly. I mean, the falls are great. Winter up until Christmas is always kind of fun. And then, January to March is a tough stretch, especially if you're a golfer like me and you want to get out and play. This year we didn't have like much of a spring. It was cold, and then all of a sudden it was like 85 degrees. There wasn't much of a spring. Sometimes that can happen up here in the Midwest.
yeah, it's crazy how it just depends on what the weather's going to be that year. And I just remember being cold in January. January and February are the worst in my opinion. And then because February you're so tired of it, and then March comes and you get one day where it's 30 degrees outside, and everyone's wearing shorts and washing their cars. And I did that. I was like, it's only 30 degrees outside.
Yeah.
I think it's snow again, but
fake spring and early summer. You get a dose of it, and then you go back to reality for another 2 or 3 weeks.
What's that thing where they say where it's you get depressed in the winter? What's that condition called? There's something
seasonal affect disorder.
Yeah, I thought that was complete BS, dude. And then I went there and I was like, this sucks.
Yeah,
every day is gray and windy, and it's what the hell? And I'm from here, and it's never gray, and it's it's windy every once in a while, but it never rains. So, anyways,
no, it's a
enough
real
about
thing.
Milwaukee. So tell me, so did you grow up in Milwaukee area?
Yeah, so I'm from Milwaukee, kind of born and raised just outside of Milwaukee. I was here until I was 17 or 18. I went to college in California.
Where?
I went to Santa Clara University, just outside of San Jose. So I spent 4 years. Sometimes I ask
couldn't
myself,
afford it, or you want to go back home to where your family was. One of the two.
Probably
or a hot chick.
Little bit of both.
Maybe the third one.
Yeah, exactly. My wife. A little bit of everything. I wonder in January and February when it's cold and dark here why I didn't stay out there from time to time. But no, I did 4 years out there in Santa Clara. Came back here to Milwaukee. I now have 2 kids. It's crazy how time flies and things change. I live not far from where I work, and life is good, man. It's fun.
So what did you major in when you were in college?
Finance. I was a finance major.
You know how many
out in Santa
freaking
Clara.
finance people I've had on the show that are not finance people? Like a fair number.
I mean, I don't, finance people, like, I get along with them. I just wasn't wired that
I feel it's
way.
a catch-all. I feel it's like,
Yeah.
if you're in
Yeah,
college,
I mean-
like, what are you going to do? I want to go into business. Okay, what kind of business? Oh, I don't know. I'll go into finance, right? Whatever that means. Like, what's finance? Like, the guy at the car dealership, you know, like, that's finance.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I
are
don't
you
think.
going to go into banking? Like, everybody, you know what that happens? Like, my best friend, right? He went to finance at U of A. And what does he do? He sells used cars. Not like a used car dealership, but like, you know, fleet sales and crap like that. So I think, like, you become a salesman essentially, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think it's a good catch-all. You learn a lot of sort of general business ideas,
Acumen.
and then like I couldn't handle accounting, so it wasn't quite. There's numbers, but it's not quite accounting numbers. So yeah, it was a safe major, that's for sure.
When I was in college, like, all the football players were in management. Like, what the hell is management? Like, and we had a good management school. Was at Purdue, right? So we had the best management school, or one of the best management. What does that even mean? Like, Drew Brees is in management. Like, management of what? Right? I don't want to be a manager of people. Like, I don't know.
It's right there with communications. I
Another
don't
one,
know what-
dude. Don't even get me started on communications.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my story with
That's it.
communications. I had to take a communication class, and like, I had this like TA essentially that taught my class, and she's from China, and she spoke no English. Like, I'm telling you, like we could barely understand her, and she was my communications teacher, and I was like, "This, you gotta be kidding me, right? Like, we don't even know what she's saying." Like, it was crazy. It was just crazy.
Seems like step one. Yeah.
It's just like, I think it's just the way that, like, you know, colleges are like, oh, free teachers. Okay, you guys should be teaching the lowest level every class there is, you know. But I loved it class. I mean, I remember I did a report. I had to do a speech on, like, I did a speech on U2, the band. I remember that. That was the best part. So it was cool.
That's good. That would be a fun.
I'm a big
project.
flashback there. I was like,
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah. No, finance was good. I mean, I learned a lot about business. You kind of get the basics, a little bit of everything. And so, obviously I'm not in the stock market or doing any of the finance stuff out, on Wall Street, but, I know enough to be able to manage a business, which was good.
Which
So
is
I
big, right? Because it kind of prepared you for the next thing. So you graduate from college, and then you go back to Milwaukee, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Right? Now, are you a golf pro, or like, how are you at golf?
No, I never was a golf pro. I did play a lot of amateur stuff. I did not play in college, but I do play competitively, and I still to this day play competitively. So golf has always been like a big part of my life. I've played it since I was, 7 or 8 years old. My grandparents introduced me to the game, and then I played a ton of golf growing up with my dad. And, like I said, I started playing competitively probably around the age of 13 and just loved it. Still love it to this day. I play competitive tournaments throughout the summer. Nothing, major like USGA level stuff, but Wisconsin state golf events and,
That's cool.
Wisconsin PGA golf events. Yeah. So I've always, loved the game and, borderline obsessed with the game. And so, with Meridian, which I know we'll talk about in depth a little bit more later, but it's definitely a passion project. I love working in the golf industry.
What were you doing between Meridian now? Like, did you start your own business?
Yeah. So I had a firm called Engineering Resource Center, and essentially what we did was rapid prototype and small volume production, engineering components that we made out of metal and plastic. And so, we didn't do 3D printing, but we did really
Machining,
tight
like
tolerance.
making like prototype stuff, like whatever it was. Now, was it just metals, or was it plastics you're saying too?
So we cut metal, and then we also used, we would make what are called injection molding tools or dies. And so then out of those dies, we would make plastic parts. So we did a little bit.
So you would make the
of
die, and then you would make the part. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. So we had a full on, manufacturing, facility here. And to kind of tie it to Meridian, or where the idea sort of got started was 5 or 6 years ago. I did work with Nike Golf, and we were working with them on their driver design. And I met some of these engineers, I met some of these design guys, and, we were making carbon fiber driver heads, and we were prototyping this stuff. And then, literally one day, Nike Golf kind of called us and said, hey, we're going out of business. We're done.
It's so weird. Because some of their clubs are like the holy grail of clubs. You know that? Like some of those old, they're worth so much money, it's not even funny. It's
and the guys were all great guys. And so that's how I sort of got my first introduction into the golf club. Yeah. And it was fun. We were making different heads. We were doing, the crown and the sole of these drivers, and we were tweaking and modifying different designs. And it was a very enjoyable process. And I really found myself like, wow, this is great. I love working with these guys. I was hoping, the relationship would sort of blossom. And then, literally one day they're done.
That's
and
so
weird. I never knew the whole story behind that. But yeah,
it's probably a numbers game. Like Nike just wants to focus on stuff we're probably losing money on that, whatever. It's probably,
I'm sure
a finance major probably made that decision, but he's probably really high now.
Yeah, maybe an accountant. I don't know. Yeah,
he passed accounting.
Yeah, the numbers don't add up when they're red. It's no good.
He's like,
so it was great to work with those guys, and in the back of my mind, I always was thinking it would be fun to do something like this. But I never really knew how what I was doing was going to, work in the golf industry, or what I was doing was going to work in the golf industry. So, for the last, 3 or 4 years, we just got back to making prototype parts. We did a lot of stuff for the plumbing industry and the engine industry, and sort of these tight tolerance, plastic components and metal components for sort of big industry. And then a couple of years ago, COVID hit. And, a lot of our work with OEMs was sort of put on pause because nobody knew
it was going to happen, right?
Right. And so research and development hit pause. A lot of the engineers we were working with, a lot of the purchasing people we were working with, they weren't even going into work anymore. And so we were kind of sitting in our shop with time. We had nothing really to make. We were just kind of in a holding pattern. And so it was at that time where I sort of thought, okay, I've got steel, I've got machines, and I have available capacity. What can I do? What can I make? What can I use this time for? And in the back of my mind, it was like, what about machining putters? What about seeing if you can make a putter that, was high end? I've got the steel in the shop. I've got the machines to do it. What about trying that? So I literally designed a putter, on a piece of paper, just kind of sketched one out, gave it to my designer here. And I said, hey, let's make this. And so we, cut our first steel putter, and it looked awful. It didn't come out the correct way. The radius was off. Everything about the design was, it was not uniform. There was just so much wrong with it. And I was like, man, I need to talk to an engineer. I need to talk to somebody who knows what they're looking at, who understands the club head, who understands how it needs to relate to the shaft, the angles, all this stuff. I need to talk to somebody who can help me design, who's got some expertise. And all of a sudden, I kind of remembered the guys from Nike. I remember, hey, what about these guys who you used to work with? And so I reached out to a couple of these old contacts and said,
where are they at now?
One of them, I believe, is working for Google, and the other was contracting, doing freelance industrial design work, but still loved golf and still maintained relationships in the golf world, and even still designed random clubs intermittently. And so I connected with him, and I said, his name is Josh Boggs. I said, hey, Josh, I would love to work with you on designing some clubs. I've got this idea for sort of a family. Can you help me? And he was like, yeah, I'd love to get into that. I'd love to help you out. Let's see what you got. And so he was able to take sort of my rudimentary, like, here's what I'm thinking. And he was able to make it work in terms of design. And he said, okay, here's what we got to do in terms of, where your hosel enters the club head. Here's what we got to do in terms of the weighting. Here's what we got to do in terms of the cavity.
It's like all the crap you didn't even know, right? Like, I'm going to make a putter, and then you drew it, and then you made it out of metal because you could physically make it. But like all the math behind it, right? And all the little and nuances.
As I've learned, there is so much that goes into designing a club. Like, so much more than I had ever considered. Where's the weight? Where's the center of gravity? When you come into the hosel from this angle, when you come into the hosel from that angle, how does it impact the stroke? And so there's just so much more science behind it than, hey, can you make what I drew on a napkin? And so, we were able to start kind of machining these putters during COVID when everything was really, really slow.
But you weren't making money on them yet, though, right? You were just making putter. Like, you were you're trying to keep everybody busy, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, well,
and like not lose people and like keep things going.
That was my biggest fear. I mean, that was my biggest fear.
Yeah, because how long does it take you to build a team, right? That like you trust, does a great job, and the last thing you want to do during hard times that are like completely unprecedented is to start losing people you spent 10 years trying to build. That you're never going to get back. Yeah, I totally get it.
And we had that really scary 12 or 16 weeks where we didn't. I mean. It seems so long ago now, but it was just a couple of years ago where we weren't sure what the future looked like
for anything.
And so right. I mean, there was so much uncertainty. So this in my mind was, okay, this is a path to a revenue stream that we can control. If we make good putters, if we make good product, if we market it effectively, maybe this thing could work, and it could generate some revenue while we recover. The other side of the business recovers from this slowdown or whatever it was going to end up being. And so we just sort of dabbled with it. We started putting a little more time into it. We started prototyping these different putters.
So when did this start? Like in February? When COVID hit? March, April, or what?
So we probably started, I mean, COVID, I guess, hit, in February or March. We probably started this project late in the summer, maybe like July-ish timeframe, a couple months into it, when it was pretty clear that business was going to be slow for a little bit.
That's figured.
It wasn't just,
going to
flip back on.
You would have never done this, probably, right? Like ever in a million years, had that not happened, right? You would have just been like designing work, making money, running a business, and then you're like, you probably would never have done it. Like,
no, never in a million years. It opened up hours and capacity we didn't have before, and so we messed with it for probably 6 or 7 months, just making different models, and some of them were terrible.
You were probably so excited too when you were making them, because you're like, it's probably all you thought about. Probably was like, I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and like.
It becomes a borderline obsession. And so it was last winter on one of the dark days, right, in like Brookfield, Wisconsin, when it was like February and it was 5 o'clock and it was dark. And I was thinking about, all right, do I want to like take the next step with this? I've got these putters that I've machined. I see them, they look good. Do I want to take the next step and invest in this and turn it into a business? And I decided, I want to go for it.
Now, did you already have like your prototype, like you felt comfortable enough to bring that to market, or did you have multiple ones, or what?
So we had 4 different putters that we sort of settled on. And I felt, listen, I never feel comfortable bringing something to the market. I have no idea how the market is going to
who knows,
react, but I was like, I like it, and I'm a good player. I had given it to some other people, and the feedback had been, hey, these are really good. So I was optimistic about it, but no, I was super nervous, and I wasn't sure how people were going to respond to it. So, but I was confident. I had a good, support team. I knew the putters were machined very well. We have state-of-the-art machinery. We got great designers. So I knew we were making a good product. And I knew the design was good. Our designer had a ton of experience in golf club manufacturing. So I was confident in the design. Then it just became a function of, all right, well, how do we take these putters and create a business? And so last March, yeah, right. And so last March was the time where I said, okay, sort of mentally, I was like, I'm invested, let's go. And I reached out to some people who could help me, obviously form the business, create the business. And then Richie, the man who is behind the website, he came on board. We spent last summer building the website, kind of creating, the stock we needed to get the putters like up and running. We made some custom putters for some people last summer, and September 1st of last year, we launched the website, and the response was awesome. I had never in a million years thought people would be as excited
like
about
when
it.
you launched. Okay, I mean, this is the scary part for any business, right? Like you feel like you have a good product to sell, but like when you came out of the gate, like how did you do that, right? Was it like how did you market your product, I guess, and make yourself known?
There were a lot of people in Wisconsin who sort of knew what we were doing. We had been in touch with the Wisconsin State Golf Association. We had done some social media, so there were people who were aware of what we were doing. And so with the Ryder Cup coming up at the end of September, we placed sort of an advertisement in the Wisconsin State Golf Association emails and in their publications, kind of introducing ourselves. And then on social media, we started posting, on our Instagram and Facebook accounts, introducing ourselves. And so that was that September timeframe where a lot of people in Wisconsin were very interested in golf. That's when we started raising our hand and saying, hey, we're a putter company.
And you're saying,
right
hey,
down the
we're
street.
local. Like we are you guys, right? Like we're not. And
the response was great. Locally, the response was very strong. I mean, like I said, people had kind of heard about what we were doing, had, through the grapevine, had seen some of our stuff, or had maybe even used a putter over the summer. But it just sort of, I don't know, it started to snowball a little bit. In September, we started posting some stuff. We did a Ryder Cup giveaway where we had some custom head covers and, some custom putters that were Team Europe and Team USA. And all of a sudden, like, hey, we got an order from like Ohio. Well, that's pretty cool. And then, oh man, we got an order from Texas. That's great. And a guy in North Carolina ordered 3. And it was pretty fun because all of a sudden, like, it had a little bit of traction. And, the first time you put it in a box and you ship it, there's sort of this feeling of like, okay, let's see what happens. 9 times out of 10, you don't hear anything, right? The putter goes and it's gone. But then every once in a while you get an email saying, hey, dude, this thing's great. Just want to let you know I love it. Yeah. I mean, you don't get many of them, but, you'll get a positive response, or somebody will say, dude, this thing's great. And it's a great price. Thank you so much. And it kind of validates all the work you've been doing, where you're like, okay, yeah, this is a good product. I'm excited about it. Last fall was fun because in September and October we saw like, hey,
and it's the end of golf season too, right? So it's not like we're gonna cut. You get all this momentum, and then it's like the end of golf season, essentially.
Yeah,
so it's like that should give you a lot of confidence too, I would think, right? Because you're like getting sales in November, and
that's a finance major, right? Like a guy, like, hey, let's launch a putter company right at the end of golf season. Maybe it wasn't the timing wasn't perfect, but we wanted to be available as soon as we had the product of it. Yeah, like, hey, let's launch this thing right as we go into the dead of winter up here.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do that. Come on, guys.
So it was great. And then, last fall we did a Black Friday sale, right? So we offered a discount. It was fantastic until we realized, like, now we got to make all the putters we sold. And so we definitely got out over our skis. Yeah, like, my phone at that time, like, would ping every time we would get a sale, just so I would make sure.
You get excited, but then you get anxiety. I bet you're like, oh crap, oh crap.
Oh yeah, people are ordering putters at like 3:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and my phone is vibrating on the nightstand, and I'm like, this is so awesome. And then after like Saturday, I was like, how are we going to do this? And so it was.
And what's your lead time then too? Like you got to make them. They weren't even made, right?
Yes, right. So our lead time was 4 weeks, which should have been fine. You know, we wanted you to have your putter by Christmas. That was our objective, and we were able to hit it. But you
probably worked all the time.
Yeah, we were working
7 days a week. Your team probably was in there overtime. I mean. But that's awesome, though, because you get it out in the market, right? That's the key. It's like, well, there's the upside is you made money, right? Some, whatever that is. It's still a deal because Black Friday, right? Yep. So you got to work your ass off. But now you have X amount of putters now out in the world being used. By Christmas morning, you're like, well, we did it, right? And now it's like, in my mind, okay, I always look at this as like golf season. Like golf season started yesterday. Right, like technically in my mind, right? Like May is the worst month for golf. You think it's a good month. April's always great because Masters and you get this huge spike, right? Everyone's interested in golf. Yeah, spring is here, right? And then May kind of like goes down because weather's still kind of weird and like courses are still open. And then June, it's like June, July, August, a little bit into September, and then it starts going down again. But it doesn't go down like bottom of the floor. Like essentially the bottom of the floor is literally Christmas morning. Just letting you know by traffic wise. Like bottom of it. No. And then after that, guess what? Slowly starts coming back up.
Slowly creeping back up. Yeah.
And then by April, you get a spike and then back down and then up.
Yeah, it was great. You know, initially it was very exciting. And then that was when we first started learning about quote unquote supply chain. Right. Uh-oh. That was the first experience we had with supply chain issues is, you know, we were ordering, 25 or 50 shafts at a time. We were getting grips in by bulk orders of 25 or 50. And then we just got swamped at Christmas and we started making orders, larger orders. And our suppliers were calling me going, we can't get you that, I know you placed that order. I know we confirmed it, but we don't have those shafts. What about these shafts? Or we don't have those grips. What about these grips? And that was when we first got into the world of, man, the golf manufacturing supply chain right now is in a tough spot. And
still?
It still is. Oh yeah. It's very hard to get product delivered on time. And I just think it's still sort of a ripple effect of, the slowdown we had a couple years ago and companies
Who are they talking to about this? Somebody was saying something similar, and they're saying that, like, let's say there's only so much material out there. Material, not like finished product. And so the supplier can't say, oh, hey, Ryan, here's all the material. Even though they could fill your order, they have to, like, balance that order across however much material they have to balance it across. But then the bigger boys have more, like, whatever. And so it's like, you just get what's left. I mean, they try to balance it because they don't lose buyers essentially, but like it's still not going to fulfill the order, right? Is that right or wrong? I mean, it's how it's explained.
It's called allocation, and when I place orders with certain suppliers, the response I get is you're only allocated X amount of product per month. And
is that what it is per month?
Per month, yeah. Okay. So like on January 1st, I can, I'll get another shipment of stuff, but I won't get more until July 1st or August 1st. And sometimes randomly, we'll get, hey, I'll get a phone call. Hey, good news. We were able to get some more shafts. They're on their way to your facility. And you're like, oh, fantastic. And then other months, like, the first of the month will come by and the UPS truck will go by and won't deliver anything. And you're like, oh man, like when are the grips coming? When are the shafts coming? And so, that has been like a steep learning curve. We are doing our best to manage it, but it's hard when, there's these elements that are out of control. And so, as we went through the winter, we started to learn about, okay, the product has a little bit of traction. People are liking the putters. We need to start to get more inventory. We need to start to build up, a little bit of a bank of stuff. We got to be able to accommodate a surge in orders, knowing that the supply chain is tight. There was a lot of that going on. And at the same time, we were still trying to run our other business, right? The Engineering Resource Center, which I had done for, 6 or 7 years. And so, in March of this year, we made the decision to get out of the injection molding side and to get out of the Yeah. So we're no longer making plastic because we're focusing on the putters. So we are focusing on Meridian. I sort of took the plunge, and
that's a big ass plunge.
Oh yeah. And it's been exciting, scary, nerve-wracking, fulfilling. You get the whole range of emotions when you decide to, leave something that's relatively stable. Yeah, and you're like, hey, I'm going to be a putter guy. So, so now we're actually in a.
But life's short, man. Right? Like, you're gonna do it for like how long? Gonna be if you're not happy. I'm not sure you're not happy or not, but right. But like, if you know that like when you get older, 10 years from now, you're like, I mean, I just should have done it, right? Like you look back and you're like, it's it's like that's what it is because 1,000 things can happen in the next 10 years or 20 years or whatever. But it's like at the end of the day, are you gonna regret not doing it because of what? Fear? I mean, I don't know, or money. I mean, I'm just saying like generally.
Well, that's, and that's kind of, I was telling you about how it was like last February, I kind of made the decision, at some point, like if you want to make this work the way you think you can make it work, then you got to go at it with 100%. You can't kind of half-ass it, right? Because it's never going to take off. And so you've got
you're going to be able to do it. Like what I tell people is like, you hit a ceiling, right? There's a ceiling there. It's called time, right? Yeah. And like you can't bust through that ceiling because you only have so much time to devote to it because you have to do whatever this is over here, right? And so what happens is like whatever dreams you have or take it to another level or whatever it might be, like you'll never get there because you only have so much time. Like you're gonna be making the same putters and fulfilling orders now forever because that's taking up a lot of time. Yeah. And then it's like, well, what about this other cool stuff we wanted to do? Well, I don't have time for that, right? Like, I got to do this other thing, my main job, which is X, whatever.
Right.
Trust me, I know, it's freaking scary as hell.
Yeah, and it's also exciting, and what I kind of really leaned into was, this is, I'm enjoying this process. I liked the old, work. When you did something well, there was always a sense of fulfillment and you were proud of what you were able to provide. And if the dollars and cents were good, you felt okay about it. But this world is really, it challenges me. It forces me to think differently than I did in, the old world. And it's golf, and I love being involved in the golf world, and it just provides a sense of fulfillment that I didn't have previously. And so I enjoy, the longer hours, or I enjoy trying to think about the next model. I enjoy the process. And for me,
you enjoy the creativity, like you enjoy like all of it, right? Like it's joy. It's pure joy because it's almost like doing what you want to do, right? Not like I have to do it.
And the dollars and cents, from a business side of it, people look at me like I'm crazy. Like, you're making putters, and it's like, like, didn't she used to make big stuff, like, so and I get
so annoying.
The accountants and the bankers, they look at me like, what are you doing? You're making putters. And it's like, in my mind, I'm like, this is going to work. I believe this is going to work, and I'm excited about this, and sort of just wait.
Well, is your team excited by it? Like, do they enjoy it? Like, oh hell yeah, this is fun. Hell, I'm assuming they probably are, right? Like,
at first they were a little skeptical. They were like, "What are we doing? We're making putters," and I said, "Yeah, we're making putters." But now they're into it, and luckily they play golf, and so they see these products coming off the machines, and they're like, "Man, these are good." And so they're very excited. And David and John have been with me since the start, and those two guys are the primary. I mean, there's been a couple others along the way, but those two guys, they've been involved with the golf since the start. And man, without them, I don't know how to run the machine, right? Like I see it.
Are they machinists?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they know, they're designers, machinists, like they know how to make those things sing and how to make the product. And
That's an
those
art
guys
form in itself, dude.
oh yeah. I can't even pretend to understand what they're doing when they're out at those machines.
No.
But it's, those guys have been pumping out putters. And what's really exciting for us is we're going through a bit of a transition right now. We're actually going to be moving to a new location in Brookfield on September 1st. Yeah. And so it's going to be kind of a state-of-the-art facility. We're going to have, a putting green in there where people can test out the putters if they want to come to the shop and check it out.
Dude, you're like going balls in, man. Like you are. That's unbelievable. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, I just quit doing this X thing. You're more like, look, dude, we are making this real. Like, we're making a facility. We're doing a putting green. We're gonna it's not like, oh, we're a machine shop and now we're making putters. Cool, instead of doing like injection molding. You're like, no, we're doing the real thing.
We want to, if we're gonna do this, we want to do it right. And right now we're kind of in this big warehouse, this 15,000 square foot warehouse, which is just, it's got racking for, the old plastic stuff. It's got all this.
You don't need all that anymore, right? It's like
you don't need it all anymore. Yep.
Like, so is the facility going to be smaller?
Yeah.
Like
so it's going to be 9,000 square feet instead of 15. So it's going to be a little smaller. Yeah. It's about 2/3 the size of where we are right now.
It's probably cheaper, right? Because you real estate you're not even using, essentially.
That's right. We're no longer, we don't need to store all the finished inventory of plastic parts, all the raw material, the resin that we used to have to worry about. We don't need all that stuff. So literally, we're going to have 7 or 8 dedicated machines just pumping out putters in this new facility. And then we're going to have robotics in between the machines that are going to run, the machines essentially lights out, right? They'll be able to run overnight. They'll be able to run over the weekend, and we're just going to be able to stock putters. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And so
made in the United States.
Oh yeah, yep, right here in Wisconsin.
Seriously, that's a big deal. And I bet you, like, when it comes to the custom shit, now you can be like, okay, here's our stock, and then you can be like, okay, now we're gonna spend time making some custom stuff that's gonna look badass.
And that's been the challenge, as this thing took off and more people started ordering, our issue was, hey, we would get a corporate order here or like a kind of a bulk order there. And then a guy would want a custom putter. And so in the middle of running, 30 or 40 putters for customer A, we'd have another guy come in and say, hey, can I do this real custom job? And the problem was, it was like, well, we can get to that, but after this, and so the new facility and the new machines that will be online in September and October, that's going to let us really focus on, okay, we can get the bulk stuff done over here.
Yeah, that's like bread and butter, right? Like the bread and butter is like, if you can make it so it runs itself, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Like automated. Yeah. It's automated. Yeah. Then it's like, okay, now my machinists and the guys that want to do design work have time to do the custom stuff. And this is just like machine popping out the product, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. No,
it's time. It's right back to the time thing, right? Because then you'll have the time to spend on making cool shit and not like pumping out the same bread and butter thing. Which nothing wrong with that. It's just the time, right? Like finding the time to do it.
The ability to automate this process a little bit is going to really open a lot of doors for us. And the real cool thing about it is, what I want Meridian to do, when Meridian grows up, I want to be able to offer a very high quality product. I want to be able to offer it, obviously, made in the United States. And then I want people to be able to put their spin on it, right? Like, you don't have to go to a big box store and just choose one from a bag of 100 or, a wall full of 40. Like, hey, if you want, your initials on it, if you want to say something silly on it, if you want your company's logo on it, whatever, we can do that for you. And guess what? We can do that all for a price that, isn't the equivalent of a mortgage payment, right? Sometimes for some of this custom stuff, you got to pay so much money. It's like a gut punch, right? And we can do it because of the way we are set up. We can do it at a reasonable price, right? You can get a very high quality product made right here in the United States, and it's not going to break the bank. And and that's what my objective is. I don't pretend to be able to make a putter as good as Scotty Cameron or a putter as good as Tyson Lamb or some of those big ones out there. But I can make you a very, very high quality putter that you can use with confidence, that can maybe be a little bit of a reflection of yourself in terms of the customization. And guess what? It's not going to be over $1,000. It's going to be a reasonable price. And that's what I'm trying to do with Meridian.
So when are you moving to that new facility?
Well, so we'll be transitioning from this facility to the new one on September 1st. It'll probably be like a 3 or a 4 week period as we move the machines down the road and we reconfigure the new spot. But we will be moving in on September 1st.
Wow.
Yeah, so keep an eye on social media. I'm sure we'll be taking lots of pictures, and it's going to be really neat when it's done. There will be, one of the things that people have asked, especially locally, is can I come out and see it? Can I come out and putt? And right now we're in a big industrial building where literally it's not safe. You can't come out to our, you got to put a heart, got to wear safety goggles, got to go through all the stuff. This new facility will literally have a spot where you can see what we've made. You can test it out. You can hit putts on it or on the green. And then you can actually look out into the plan and see where your putters are manufactured. So it's going to be a pretty exciting spot for people who are local. That's one of the things that, we need to address as a company is with the custom putters and the fact that we're not in pro shops.
Yet.
People, want to test them out before they buy them. And so this, if you're local to Wisconsin, we'll give you the opportunity to test it, and that'll sort of check that box before we can get, into a pro shop near you.
So what's your plan then? Right now you're direct to consumer.
Yep.
I'm assuming.
Yep.
Are you in pro shops or no?
So no, we're not in any pro shops. Direct to consumer 100% right now. We do mill some putters that are for Second Swing Golf, which is located in Arizona,
That's cool.
I believe in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
So but besides
they got a brand new facility, dude. It is sick.
Yeah.
They
so you can find.
Yeah, it's the coolest place. You can find some super high end putters in there too, thousands and thousands of dollars, rare putters, behind a glass case. It's pretty sick.
So our putters are somewhere near those. If you look on the bottom, they say Meridian.
How'd you get in contact with them?
They reached out. They found us on social, and they reached out to us and asked if we would be interested in being a part of their, sort of custom display for putters. And we said, yeah, absolutely. We've done several orders for them now. They seem like a great group to work with. And I guess we are in, I think they have 5 or 6 locations. So we are in those stores. But besides that, everything that is made is done direct to consumer. And we do have a 30-day return policy, no questions asked. So, my thought is, and when people talk to me about it, is, hey, take it out, play with it for a round or two. As long as you don't smash it against the cart path, you can return it to us if you don't like it, and we can gladly refund your money, and we'll sell it to somebody else. So we do try and give guys, the opportunity, or customers the opportunity to to play with it, to mess around with it, and if they don't like it, they can send it back.
See, I've always loved putter guys, man. I've worked with. For real, some of my favorite people to work with have been the putter guys. I don't know why. They're a different breed. And I'm being honest. I work with Lab putters, coolest bunch of guys, right? Lab is cool as hell. Yeah. Seymour, I love them, honestly, because they're such good people. When I started my podcast, I knew nothing, right? Here's my podcast story. I was at a PGA show, and it was 2 a.m. It was with one of my guys that was on my team, and we're in bed, laying, we're talking. We just got back, right? And I was like, hey man, I got a really good idea. I should have a podcast. That's literally how this whole thing started, because I know so many people. I've talked to some people. I'm like, it'd be cool if people heard these stories. So then the next day at the PGA show, we were in the putting area, the big putting area, and I saw the guys from Seymour. I've worked with them for 2 years at this point, and I went and talked to them. And I was like, hey, I have this idea for a podcast, blah 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 blah. And they're like, oh, we do a podcast. And I was like, seriously? They're like, oh yeah, we've been doing it for the last year and a half. can't remember what it's called. So like, but we can help you. Like, we'll tell you what you should buy and how to do it and where to get. And I was like,
great.
for real?
Yeah.
And that's literally how I started my podcast. So like, putter guys are just nice dudes figuring out cool stuff. And it's like, I don't know. And there's so much like customization you can do with the putter. It's like, you can't do it with an iron. I mean, I know people can stamp and they can do laser etching on wedges, but like, that's kind of few and far between, right? Like, so I think
and
the putter
putters
world is really fun.
Yeah, it's it's something that, putters, you can have like a love-hate relationship with a certain putter you have, right? I'm going to use it today, and then it didn't go so well, I'm going to use my other one, and you go back and forth on it. But in general, like a putter is something that you're going to have for a long time. And what we like to say, you can customize, you can put your name. Some people have their own logos, believe it or not. Some people like, we've done some camouflage putters on the back because guys, veterans who want to shot. Oh yeah, we've done all sorts of stuff. We've done dates, engagement dates. We did a putter for a wedding once. So we've done all sorts of cool things like that. And, with us, we can kind of give you exactly what you're looking for. If you want, a little more loft, a little less loft, if you want it to be upright or a little flatter, we can work with you on that and get something that's truly, made to your swing. And I'd agree with you. The putter world, as I've gotten to know more people and I've gotten more communication and started to, meet some more guys, it's very supportive. There's always sort of this.
There's not like a competition there. Like, it's like, I wasn't sure. And all those smaller and mid-sized brands, you guys are like, the way I look at it is like, we're all allies, right? Like, you're not a Scotty Cameron, you're not like these big boys, right? Like, so it's like, let's just make cool putters and see what happens. And I don't know. I think that's what's so cool about that world. There's plenty
of putters to go around. And I wasn't sure. I went to the PGA show this year and I was introducing myself to some people and I was kind of getting the lay of the land, and everybody was like, let me know how I can help. Like, I'd love to be a part of it. Let me know if you have questions, ask, don't feel stupid. Like, and it was really cool. Like, I was very excited after leaving that PGA show. I was like, hey, this is a cool industry.
It's people. It's like real people.
Yeah.
It's not like this mega behemoth company that's like, oh, well, yeah, sorry. I'm just, one level.
Well, you put a face with a name, right? Like, so often, especially, the last couple of years with being limited on travel and stuff, like you're emailing, a contact us page, or you're trying to get more information. And when you actually meet the guy behind the screen, you like develop a relationship with them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Can you help? Or do you know, how do I procure this? Or what's the best way to do that?
They'll tell you.
They tell you. Yeah. And then they're like, oh yeah, and here's my card and call me if you ever got any questions. And it's very reassuring. And
was that your first PGA show?
I had been to one like 3 years ago, just when I was thinking about like the putter business. But this was the first time I went and really went down with a purpose and like introduced myself, obviously, talked to some suppliers, talked to some manufacturers and like establish some relationships. But I had been to one previous and this year's show was a little, I guess, with
not
the
as
COVID
big
stuff, it wasn't as big.
But I've heard both sides of it. Like, I was going to go, but then I got COVID. But I'm glad I didn't go because I was afraid I was going to get COVID. So, but my friends told me that they liked it in some ways because the big boys weren't there, so that it wasn't like dominated by whatever they were doing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it was more like you could talk to more people. I don't know. I mean, that thing's massive, dude. Like, I tell people it's a square mile under whatever steel. Essentially, it's like it's like there's no way you can see everything. It's impossible. It's like it's impossible.
It was definitely different without the big anchor displays. I don't know that any of the OEMs or any of the big boys were there.
They didn't.
But it was great for me because I was able to, talk to, shaft suppliers or head cover guys or different, and
who weren't too busy. Yeah. We weren't busy with talking to their big people and be like, oh yeah. My one friend said that like, well, he didn't go either. And he told me that like they sent a small contingent of people and like they said it was awesome because since the big boys weren't there, they still had to, like the TV, like Golf Channel, everybody still had to fill their content, right? So then they started like going to other brands and like showcasing them more and giving them a little bit more exposure than they would have ever done before. It's all free marketing essentially, you know. And so I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, like.
Yeah, it's obviously, you know, it's sort of the business. I mean, it's the hub of the PGA world for a week there in Orlando, and it was great to go there for me, just to, you know, meet some of the people who, you know, I'm talking to, especially now if there's a supply chain issue, I can make a phone call and just kind of get an update, and it was just very,
You're not calling some waiting 100 number
yeah.
and being like, I don't have a person I know that knows what's really going on.
Yeah. Yep. And you know how valuable that is, you know, just to get like, hey, you know, I was supposed to get X delivered on Monday. When's it actually going to show up? You know, and you know, that's coming next week. Like, it's just good to like have a voice on the other end of the phone that you know and that you trust and that, you know, gives you accurate information. So yeah, the PGA show was fun this year to be, you know, a legitimate vendor. You know, we didn't have a booth, we just walked, but you know, it was great to introduce ourselves.
You don't need a booth, dude. I mean, honestly, like I've heard both sides. You know, I've heard that like if you have a booth, like it's great for like, you know, whatever your reasons are. But like if you're able to just walk around and talk to people, like it's almost like a lot of people would just complain and say, "Oh, yeah, I got to stay at the booth today," you know. But they really want to go and like they want to go talk to people and they can't because they're stuck at a booth that they feel like they have to be obligated and they spent $10,000 on. That like, you know. There's pros and cons, I guess. You got to bring at least two people, essentially.
Yeah, no, for
maybe
sure,
more,
for sure.
But still expensive as hell.
No, so that was fun in January to go kind of see the golf world from that side. And you know, like I said, we developed some great relationships there that we've used, especially now as we've kind of got into more orders and the orders have kicked in, and you know, we're getting into bigger quantities. To be able to make phone calls and to, you know, kind of manage the supply chain has been important. Yep. So
what now? Right now with Meridian, how many? You have 3 designs, is that right? I can't.
There's 4. There's 4 models. Yeah. There's the Charleston, which is kind of your classic Ping Answer-ish, Scotty Newport-ish model. The Tybee
I remember that one. Yeah.
The Tybee is a mid mallet that I really like. I use personally. The Okati is sort of a blade with a little bit of a back to it, kind of like the putter that, you know, Phil Mickelson used to use when he played golf. And then we have the Edisto, which is kind of the old bullseye style putter. You can go either left-handed or right-handed. It's a 2-way putter. That's been kind of fun to make, and that's actually been surprisingly popular. So we have those 4 models, and you know, it's like all the standard people like recognize, at least the shape, right? Like, okay, I like that kind of putter, you know, and then let them go from there. And we have a couple more coming that we're going to launch this fall when we're in the new facility. We're working on sort of like a notchback mallet type model, and then there's a couple other that are still, you know, really in like the first stages of design, but. Those 4 models, I mean, it's kind of hopefully like something for everybody. There are some people who come in with some crazy requests where we're like, nah, we just don't have anything that fits that bill. But those are the first 4. And you know, the Charleston is by far the most popular. But the Okati putter has just been slamming for the last like 6 or 8 weeks. We can't make them fast enough. So that's been really cool too.
What I think is phenomenal is like the laser etching you guys are doing. It's crazy.
Just to walk you through how we make a putter, you know, we literally make everything from a block of steel, right? We have either a kind of a plate or a block of steel that just gets delivered by our steel guy, right? And then we take that and we cut it down a little bit in what's called a wire machine, basically make the rough shapes of the putters. And then we take those putters and we put them in our CNC machines, and every putter is made to order. So if you order 1,400, you know, we got your block of steel, we put it in the CNC machine, and then it's milled 100%. Every dimension is cut by a high-speed spindle. You know, we make everything custom. And then we'll take that putter, and if you want something, you know, there's a couple of ways we can get your, I guess, engraving on there. If you just want something stamped, we can obviously stamp it Some people like something a little more clean. We can actually cut and mill, your initials if that's what you choose. And then the third option is we have a laser, and it literally will just burn away the steel. And we can put pretty much any logo, image, graphic, design.
Dude, that's where you're going to separate yourself, man. Because I could imagine if you start doing some cool-ass laser etching on a putter and that gets posted on social, I can guarantee you're going to get a lot of traction. Like, guarantee it.
And that's, as we do this move over the summer and we start to get into more custom stuff, the laser etching it's really, we reposted a really cool like wedge like 2 weeks ago or something where like somebody had like laser etched the back side of it like Dragon Ball Z, and I had so many comments like, where can I buy that putter, or where can I buy that wedge, where can I buy that wedge, where can I buy that wedge? And I was like, holy crap. Now there's probably some trademark issues there, but still, like, if you have, you could do some really cool stuff. That laser etching is nuts, dude. And is it hard to do that or not really? There's a little. So literally, if you sent me like, hey, here's a PDF of what I want, as long as it's clear and we can capture that design, it's not too hard. The machine
programming it and making sure the design works on the piece and all that, right? Right.
So there's a little bit of testing we have to do. We got some blank steel, and we always kind of do a test burn and like just make sure it's going to come out looking good. And there's we're removing steel, so there's like some dimensions and like some 3D stuff we got to look at. But for the most part, we can do it. Just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of energy. But once we got the design finalized, we just fire up the laser and it gets burning. And I've seen it, for a year. I've watched this thing burn, and every time I see it, I'm still like, wow, that is crazy. Like how it works. So
it's cool. I saw it. What you guys did, because you had that one when I was looking at your putters the other day, and like you had laser etched the face of the putter with like Wisconsin. Wasn't it Wisconsin's like shape?
Wisconsin.
Dude, that's freaking so cool.
Yeah, and it's crazy when we do that. Like like you said, the social just go, hey, can I get that? Can I get that? Can I get that? And so
I told you what I want for my order. I don't know. I want, if you guys did that, that will blow up. I could tell you right now. Like, that will blow up. Like, that thing is, which is not, it wasn't any different than what you already made. I'm just like, swap that out with a different state. That's all.
Yeah, no.
And it was so cool, dude. Oh my God, it's so freaking cool. And you guys got to see this. Like, it is seriously the coolest. I've never seen that on a face of a putter. I've never seen that ever. Now, they probably exist, but I've never seen it.
No, and it was fun to do because it's sort of this, like, we know that when we start showing this stuff, like, people are going to
blow up, dude. You could, like, change the patina on it, and, like, you could, like, mess with that, and then do some killer laser-etched face. Like, dude, it's going to blow up, dude. I can guarantee it.
So that's one of the things that we're
Ryan's all excited. He's like, yeah, I can't wait. It'll be so cool.
Yeah, no, we're careful. Like, trust me, my guys, I would want to just turn that like, let's do it, but they're like, hey, we need to, first of all, we need to move. We need to get this transition done.
Yeah, we gotta like this is like something you probably do like 6 months from now, right? When you actually have like the assembly line working and you're all caught up and it's the winter and it's cold and crappy in Wisconsin and you're like, guess what? Design time, let's have fun, and now we can actually start playing with our toys and like making some cool stuff.
You're exactly right. Like that's where we are, and we're like me as.
But you gotta build the machine, right? The machine has to be built first, and the machine is the assembly line and making stuff automated so that you can have that time to devote to development or design or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, as like a kind of a sales guy, like I want to go as fast as we can, and I want to go and I want to push, but at the same time, like you can't overcommit, right? And then like not be able to say, hey, we can't actually make your putter until December, right? Like that's no good either. So we're being very cautious.
No, that's smart because you piss off the person before they even get it, and so by the time they get, they're like, I don't really care anymore because you pissed me off, and it took 4 months to get my product, and like. Whatever, and you're like, no, we'll just. Think about it. A year ago, you were nowhere close to this, right? Like you were. So imagine what a year from now is going to be like.
It's exciting, it's
like you have more designs too. I bet you have more like putter heads and like whatever.
Yeah, there's almost too much. I mean, I'm sure I can tell you have the same sort of entrepreneurial edge, like where your brain starts like pumping in too much stuff, and you're like, oh, we can do this, and then we can do that, we can do this, and it's like, all right, you got to make sure you do everything, and you got to make sure you do it well. So sometimes I got to rein it in a little bit. But when I do think about like, all right, where do I want to be in 1 year? Where do I want to be in 3 years? Where do I want this to be in 5 years? It definitely, gets exciting, and you get that drive to like keep working and to keep pushing.
What I love about this show too is like I'll talk to entrepreneurs who are like older than us, right? Who are like super successful, and they say the same thing, right? Like it's just the same. Like that's why I like doing the show. It's more about like if you want to go into any kind of, if you want to be an entrepreneur, like listen to the show. If you want to be in golf and like hear what all these entrepreneurs are saying about how to actually break into an industry like nothing about, right? Like I knew nothing about the golf industry. That was not my world, right? Same thing with you. Like you played golf. That's like me. I played golf. But like it's the same thing. We all have the same thread that goes through all of us. It's just like we love the sport and we want to make some cool stuff. Whatever that is.
I think that's why like this podcast is so cool. Is like when you're an entrepreneur or when you are thinking about these things, like there are so many people who will look at you kind of like,
you're
crazy.
Stupid, you're crazy.
Right.
Oh, I get all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, nothing drives me more insane when people say stuff like, oh, how's, whatever. And it's like, shut up,
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they tell you like, oh, you're making putters? It's like, yeah, we're making putters. And you got to surround yourself with people who support that, right? You got to surround yourself. Your friends will be the guys who tell you like, hey, I'm happy for you. I'm going to support you. I listen to your podcast. I'm going to buy a putter. I want to see you do well. And you got to surround yourself with people who inspire you, because there are so many people who are going to give you that look and who are going to like try and pull, and it's like, nope, you just got to focus on, the voices that are going to support you.
Yeah. The doubt, all the doubt
Yeah.
and the naysayers and whatever it is. And
Of course, of course you have doubt, right? Like,
but it is so cool. Like when I started doing this, like a lot of people, when I started doing this like full time, and I told like the brands I've worked with forever, they're like, "Do about time." Like they're like, "Why didn't you do that sooner?" And like those are the right people to be talking to you, not like, "What are you doing? That's stupid." It's. And I'm like, really? Like you saw, like, oh, I don't know how you did for so long like that, or those many comments, and I'm like. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
You it's you just gotta find that fuel, and that's what I got a great team. I got a great team here who, supports me, and my wife, like every time I have an idea, she's like pushing me to do it, and my family, my parents, my brothers, their families, I'm very lucky because I got people, in my circle who push. Yeah, who push and who don't look at you like you got two heads, right? And you're like, no, I think this can work. I feel like this can work. And, I know it's going to work because I'm going to work my tail off to make it work. And so you just got to find that support structure, and then, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, like I think that's the key, right? Is having the right support around you so that you don't feel like you're crazy and that you're able to, like, I mean, it's still scary and hard. It's just that, like,
you gotta be, if you're an entrepreneur, you gotta be a little bit crazy, right? Like, I'm giving up, like, I know that I can make plumbing fixtures and engine stuff forever, and I could be bored out of my mind making this stuff. Or I can make putters and be excited and try and create a brand from nothing.
Yeah, and what's the worst case scenario? It fails, and you go back to making plumbing fixtures and blah 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 blah.
I'm sure you were telling me a little bit about yourself before that you were involved in the law, and like I'm sure there's probably people who looked at you and said, "What, you're doing a golf podcast?" But like at the same time, it probably really drives you to create this brand and have these conversations with people all over the country and brands all over
entrepreneurs, right? So it's like, that's the cool part. I mean, I don't work with brands, I work with people, and that's kind of how I do my business. And it's like, I would rather work with the people that I like a lot and like support what they're doing, and have supported me through the years, like whatever they have, and contacts or insight, or I don't know. I'm a noob, right? Like,
Well, it's funny you say, like, you work with people that there's certain people that have ordered putters from me, over the last 7 or 8 months. And every once in a while you'll get somebody who like writes a message on social media or who writes a message directly to me. And it's just like super negative about something. And I always try and like address it. And I say, hey, I'm sorry, the putter didn't meet your specifications or something like that. And then I just, I say like, hey, have a nice day. And you don't let it. And then move on. Yeah, and then
No, I know. Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, I know in my head, I go, okay, of the 1,000 putters we.
But it's still, you're still kind of pissed off, and you're like, in the back of your mind, like, wait, what's wrong? Like, but then it's not you, it's that person. It's not the product. Like, the product didn't work for them. I'm sorry it didn't work out, or I'm sorry it took so long to get to you, or I'm sorry. Like, okay, you have like reasons for your unhappiness, but like, I'm not gonna make you happy. Like, so, I get it all the time, dude. You people like talk shit like all the time, and you're just like.
You'll read a review or a response and you're like, I want to like go engage in this conversation and explain something. But then you kind of know, hey, it's not worth it. It's not worth. You're not going to get any satisfaction out of it. All you're going to do is.
They'd be unhappy regardless no matter what you do. And they'll probably never be happy with anything they have anyways. So it's just like one time I had somebody like comment, and I think it was on YouTube or something. They made some stupid comment like, I don't know what they said. And they're like, well, I'm going to unsubscribe. I'm like, good. Like, see you later. Like, and they did. And I was like, I don't really care. Like, what, it was like, oh no, I don't know. It was just like so ignorant. And like, I don't know what they said. I was like, it didn't even make sense. I was like, what? Oh, okay.
I always say,
my one B-roll clip you didn't like or something. It was like something really like obnoxious. I was like, whatever. I by no means do I say what we do here is perfect. But I do know that of the 1,000 putters we've shipped or whatever we've made in the last 6 months, like I know how many have been returned because of quality issues. And so I know like our hit rate is so high and we're making a good product. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I'll refund your money. You send it on back and like, have a nice day. And, sometimes you'll see a message like, well, there knows Scotty Cameron. And it's like, no, absolutely not. I've been doing this for, 2 years. They've been in this market forever. But what we are trying to do is like I said, I want to make you a good putter. I want to make it here in the United States. I want to have you have the ability to customize it a little bit. And I want to do it for a price that doesn't, break the bank, recognizing that times are a little bit challenging right now for a lot of people. You can get a high quality product and not have to worry about it. And that's what we're trying to do. And if that doesn't meet what you're hoping, life's too short to get in arguments. We will gladly refund your money. Have a nice day. And I hope you find a putter that works for you. That's kind of the mentality that Meridian wants to have. I modeled the whole thing. I'm a beach guy, right? I live in Wisconsin, so that might not make sense, but like I love staring at the water. I love staring at the ocean. And so all of the putters are named after beach towns in the Southeast. My parents are retired to Hilton Head, South Carolina. I've spent my life going down there. The Charleston right up the road, the Edisto, the Ocati, the Tybee, all towns like on the beach. And that was sort of my inspiration for the brand was, hey, like clear mind, clear head. Like let's do something that is fun, that I enjoy doing. Those towns make me happy. So those are the towns that I named the putters after. I found inspiration, in each putter. I could relate it to each town. And that's what I want Meridian to be. It's just like a fun, clean, refreshing spot to buy a putter. And if you like golf and you like high quality, machined putters, I think we got something for you. Well, I think it's great. I think what you guys are doing is really cool. When I saw it, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I saw the custom work, which I was like blown away. I was like, where are these guys coming from? Like I haven't heard of that. And not in a bad way. I was like, this is cool. So where can people find you? What's your guys' website?
So meridianputters.com is where everything is, located. You can order the stock putters right through that website. Everything is, the direct-to-consumer side of things is right there. And then if you want to go custom on a putter, hit the custom putters tab, and there's a downloadable link where you can see the 4 putter prints for each model. And you can print out a putter print, and you will see on each print the areas that you can customize. So there's like 7 areas on each area. You can kind of whip up your design however you want to do it, and then you can send that in to Meridian, support at Meridian, and you can have us. What we'll then do is kind of give you a quote, right? We'll give you the lead time and the quote, and ask you any like final specifics, loft and lie, length of shaft, that type of thing, so that you can make sure that it fits your swing as well. So all of that information is right there on the website.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show today. I appreciate it very much. And you guys really need to like check them out because it's something special that they're doing. And I don't know, it's like they're going to be big. I have a feeling. Give it 2 years. You're going to know what that is. That's my soothsayer thing. So,
Paul, thank you very much for having me. This was a blast. It's always fun to talk to somebody else in the golf industry, and especially like an entrepreneur like yourself. I appreciate the forum.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
You're gonna beat me at golf?
Stay connected on and off the show by visiting golfersauthority.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Golf is always more fun when you win.
Stay out of the beach and see you on the green.